Okay, welcome back to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're doing something a bit different. We're going to take a really close look, kind of a microscopic view, at one specific news story.
Yeah, one that gives us a pretty interesting window into, well, personal injury lawsuits.
Exactly. And we've got just one source guiding us today.
It's an article from USA Today.
And it details a lawsuit that's been filed against Costco.
Right.
So think of this deep dive as, our mission just to pull out the absolute key information from that article.
Just the facts as presented there. What are the claims? What allegedly happened?
What's the legal basis they're arguing? And maybe the most striking part, the amount of money being sought.
Yeah, that number definitely catches your eye.
It really does. It's a chance to see how one single incident in a store could potentially balloon into this huge legal fight.
Based only on what this one article reports.
Solely on that. Okay, so let's unpack this.
All right. So this USA Today piece, it focuses on a lawsuit brought by a woman, Sadie Novotny. She's from Santa Rosa, California.
Okay.
And she's suing Costco. The case started in California state court, but the article says it's now moved to federal court.
Ah, interesting. And the incident itself, when and where did it happen according to the article?
It says March 22nd, she was shopping at a Costco, the one in Santa Rosa specifically.
And her main claim is what?
Her central claim is that a, quote, heavy liquor cabinet display fell on her without warning.
Without warning.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's a bit more detail, right? Something about an incident report.
Yes, exactly. The article mentions a Costco incident report apparently attached to the legal complaint itself.
And what does that report say?
Well, according to the article's reference to that report, she and her husband were actually in the process of buying a liquor cabinet.
Ah, so not just browsing nearby.
Right. And it says the floor model fell while they were doing that.
Okay, and her immediate reaction. Does the report mention that?
It does. The article, citing the report, says she apparently tried to catch it.
Oh, wow. Instinct, I guess.
Yeah, tried to catch it and push it back up, but right away she felt pain.
Where?
The report, as mentioned in the article, lists her right shoulder, forearm, hand, fingers, and also her lower back.
Okay, so immediate pain reported in several areas.
But that's just the initial report. The lawsuit itself goes much further.
Right. What does the lawsuit claim were the results?
It claims she suffered, and this is the language used, multiple permanent and catastrophic injuries.
Catastrophic. That's strong language.
Very. And it explicitly includes a head injury and, significantly, a traumatic brain injury, a TBI.
Okay, a TBI claim. That really changes things, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You know, claiming an injury, or like a traumatic brain injury, that shifts the whole case. It's not just a simple slip and fall or a minor bump anymore.
No, it becomes potentially much more complex, much more serious.
And that level of severity, that claim, starts to explain why the lawsuit is asking for such a large amount of money.
Right. And the legal arguments reflect that seriousness, too, I imagine. It's not just basic negligence.
Correct. The article states that beyond general negligence, which is basically saying Costco was careless, the suit also includes claims for premises liability and products liability.
Okay, let's break those down. Premises liability first. Why add that?
Well, the article actually gives some guidance by citing definitions. For premises liability, it mentions this legal idea that a property owner, like Costco, can be held responsible for damages if someone gets injured on their property.
So that's about their responsibility for the store environment itself.
Exactly, just for owning and running the place where the injury happened.
And products liability, how did that fit in?
Again, the article notes this usually refers to defective consumer items.
So related to the cabinet itself potentially being faulty or unsafe.
Precisely. So you've got negligence, sort of general carelessness. You've got premises liability fault related to the store space, and products liability fault potentially tied to the specific display cabinet.
It sounds like they're covering different bases, different ways Costco might legally be responsible based on what happened.
Yeah, it's like looking at the incident from, three distinct legal angles based on the details in the complaint.
Does the article say how they allege Costco was negligent? Any specifics?
It does. The lawsuit, as described, claims Costco, quote, negligently failed to adequately manage and or operate their store and or their merchandise.
Okay. Broad operational claims.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes. It also alleges a failure to train, manage, and supervise their employees.
So pointing towards potential systemic issues, not just a one-off accident.
That seems to be the argument, yes. And that these failures directly led to the cabinet falling and injuring her.
The article even mentions details about the display itself, right? Its condition.
The complaint apparently alleges it was in a dangerous and/or precarious position,
Why precarious?
partly because it apparently had thin legs, according to the filing described in the article, and it was sitting on a worn wooden pallet.
I see. So painting a picture where maybe this wasn't entirely unexpected.
That's the implication they seem to be building, yes, that it was potentially a foreseeable result of how things were set up or maintained.
Okay, this all leads us to the damages, the money. And this figure, as mentioned, is pretty stark.
It really is. The article states Miss Novany is asking for a very specific, very large amount. $14,110,000.
$14.11 million. Wow. For a single personal injury claim.
It's substantial, and the article actually breaks down how they arrive at that figure, which is quite revealing.
How so? Where does most of that money allegedly come from?
Well, the biggest pieces are for what's called non-economic damages.
Okay. And what does that mean, non-economic?
These aren't things like medical bills that you can easily, add up with receipts.
Right.
The lawsuit, according to the article, claims $5 million just for emotional distress.
$5 million. Okay.
And another $5 million for pain, suffering, and inconvenience.
So wait, that's $10 million right there out of the $14.11 million total?
Exactly. $10 million attributed to non-physical harm, the sort of subjective experience of suffering, the emotional toll.
That really underscores the severity of the alleged impact on her life, doesn't it? Especially if it's linked to that traumatic brain injury claim.
It certainly suggests that's the core of the damages claim, yes. That the impact goes far beyond just the immediate physical issues.
What about the rest? Are there claims for future costs?
Significant amounts. The article mentions $2 million claimed for future medical expenses.
Implying long-term treatment needs.
Yes. And another $2 million for loss of future earning capacity.
So, arguing the injuries will prevent her from working or earning as she would have otherwise.
That's what that figure suggests, yes. An impact on her ability to earn over her lifetime.
Okay, so that's $10 non-economic, $2 in future medical, $2 future earnings. That's $14 million already. What about costs already incurred?
Those are included too, but there's smaller figures in comparison. The article lists $50,000 for medical expenses already racked up.
Okay.
$50,000 for earnings lost up to the point of filing the suit.
Right.
And then $10,000 for loss of household services.
Meaning like needing help with chores or things she used to do herself.
Essentially, yes. The cost of replacing the services she provided to her household.
So if you add all those up,
Wow.
the $5 million, the other $5 million, the two millions, the 250,000s, and the 10,000.
You land precisely on that $14,110,000 total figure claimed in the lawsuit, as reported by USA Today.
Okay, so let's recap what we've pulled just from this one article.
Right.
We have an alleged incident, a shopper, a heavy liquor cabinet display falling on her at Costco.
Resulting in claimed injuries that are described as catastrophic, crucially including a traumatic brain injury.
We've looked at the legal arguments being used, not just negligence, but also premises liability relating to the store itself.
And products liability, potentially related to the cabinet display, exploring those different angles of potential responsibility.
And we've really dug into that striking $14.11 million damage claim.
Yeah, breaking down how the complaint, according to the article, itemizes that amount across different categories.
Things like pain and suffering, emotional distress, future medical costs, lost future earnings, and then the past cost too.
And it's important to stress again, everything we've talked about, every detail, comes directly from the information presented in that single USA Today article about this lawsuit.
Absolutely. And this case, just as laid out in the article, it really makes you consider the very complicated process of putting a dollar figure on harm.
Especially those non-economic damages, right? How do you quantify emotional distress or pain and suffering? It's inherently subjective.
Exactly. So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over based on this. Look at that specific breakdown again. The $14.11 million with such large amounts, $10 million, in fact, for non-economic damages like emotional distress and pain suffering, plus another $4 million for future losses, compared to the relatively smaller amounts for current documented costs. What does that specific distribution, that emphasis, tell you about the core argument being made here? About the alleged long-term, perhaps life-altering impact the plaintiff is claiming in this lawsuit, based purely on how the damages are itemized in the source material?
Yeah, something interesting to consider as you think about the information we've unpacked today.